Monster and
Monster Chick. You're watching History and Headlines with Granny Monster and the crew.
always remember to create, not hate.
History a lot smoother.
And headlines easy to read.
This is an article suggested by Granny Monster. The Sophie Lancaster Foundation. On 11 August 2007, Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend were attacked by a gang of teenagers in a park in Lancashire. Instead of fleeing, Sophie went to her boyfriend's aid. The couple were kicked, stamped on, and left unconscious for nothing more than looking different. Sophie later died from her injuries. If anything positive is to come from her death, Sophie's family and friends would like it to be you. Sophie's murder was treated as a hate crime by Judge Russell, who sentenced the murderers accordingly. Under the current UK hate crime legislation, and as the motivation behind the murder was hateful, he was able to use his discretion to class it as a hate crime. The Sophie Lancaster Foundation are working to have alternative subcultures or lifestyle and dress code added to the reportable hate crime strands to ensure that it is not a discretionary option but equal to the existing strands, which are race, religion, disability, homophobia, transgender. Following the horrific murder of Sophie Lancaster, her family wanted to ensure a legacy to their beautiful, bright, and creative daughter. The Sophie Lancaster Foundation was established and became a registered charity in 2009. It was created to have a lasting legacy for Sophie, to provide educational group works that challenge the prejudice-based bullying and intolerance towards people from alternative subcultures, and to campaign to have the UK hate crime legislation extended to include people from alternative subcultures. A Goths for Sophie fundraiser was created in 2017, and their first calendar came out to mark the 10th year of Sophie's passing. The project is used to celebrate Goths from all walks of life, all nationalities, as they are, for who they are. It's about the importance of staying true to yourself and to share the message that it's okay to be Goth at any age, any nationality, any gender, and to express your style and uniqueness without prejudice or discrimination. It's an identity and culture like any other. Goths for Sophie is a collaboration formed purely online by people who have a message about what it means to be Goth and the true essence of community spirit. It's not about fame, clothes, or the image. Goth is for life. They believe in this wholeheartedly. By creating the calendar and purchasing it, they are able to thank the Sophie Lancaster Foundation for their work in hate crime prevention and awareness for future generations, not just in the UK but around the world. Key ambassadors in the calendar have taken the time and their own resources to have a photograph taken to be part of a 2020 calendar. The calendar has been designed, printed, and distributed worldwide from Australia. Goths for Sophie feel that the individuals in the calendar have a strong sense of community, honesty, and lead by example when it comes to being yourself and to stand up for your right to be Goth and be unique without prejudice. All of the people featured in the calendar will be promoting the campaign during the course of this fundraising period, and with some very large followings, they hope to share this news on all social media whether it be YouTube videos, Instagram posts, or Facebook shares. The more engagement they have, the more they can share the message and assist the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. Initial funds raised will be used to print and ship and distribute the calendar. 100% of the profit raised after printing costs and distribution will go to the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. All individuals are unpaid as part of this charity project. Their time and effort is voluntary with no remuneration. Sophie's mum and youth worker, Sylvia Lancaster OBE, has launched an educational game to take into high schools and other young people's establishments that shows young people how easy it is to be more tolerant and open their minds to accept all people, despite their lifestyle or appearance. The Sophie game is a paid-for resource available for teachers to use in schools and other educational sites across the UK. This is an email I received from Andrew's shadow. Dear ActionGal, just wanted to give you Andrew's full story. It all started with Andrew being born premature to the point where a lot of vital organs weren't well developed, so he needed to have steroids pumped into him. His parents were told that he was going to be a vegetable, not able to walk or do anything by himself. But Andrew did slowly learn how to walk and talk. All through his childhood he was told that he shouldn't or couldn't do things, being sheltered from everything. He was bullied to the point where to this day he struggles with being able to be himself. He struggles in all his relationships he tries to keep or obtain. Family relationships are hard because 2 times Andrew was molested by family. Just the type where he was young and they were in some type of experimental sex stage. But it was not like intense rape. He did get raped by this boy he didn't even know when he was small at his mum's old trailer. Just the scary block out of Andrew's mind kind. Until recently he started remembering things. During high school he was just going to get a certificate, but he switched and started high school over again. He was able to get his diploma, then he went to college for a year. Wasn't his thing. Then Andrew went job hopping. He encountered a lot of jobs, then landed a job at Timken, a ball bearing manufacturer. He was harassed and bullied to the point it made him go to the doctor and get prescribed depression medication. Andrew tried to still work there, but one night he was bullied to the point that depression took over and he tried to take his life. This was all over someone calling him a school shooter, on top of the other names that people called him over the years. He went through 2 weeks of being in the psych ward in the hospital. It was hard, but he got through it, and it was a good life experience. He still has his ups and downs and has to rely on a drug to keep his head straight. He got his okay job now, and he did it by himself. He's here despite being labelled as mentally retarded in the medical field and labelled just so many other things by teachers and random people. So his message to others who have struggled against society is that in the end, it's you who defines who and what you are and how you will make it in life. Thank you for hearing him out, and Andrew hopes his story also helps you in some way. Sincerely, Andrew's shadow.
On 10 troubled historical figures who committed suicide. I'm not going to read the entire article for you. Why? Because I encourage you to read. Funny that. Okay. And the first person that I want to talk about is Empedocles. That guy, Empedocles. We'll just say it real fast. That way we sound like we know what we're saying. Old news trick. Epiclades. Born around 493 BC in Argentinum, Sicily, Epiclades, see what I did there, was a statesman, philosopher, and mystic. Epiclades was one of the first people to encapsulate their knowledge and beliefs in a poetic form. Only fragments of his work survive, but his influence trickled down to the ages of other philosophical schools. Plato and Aristotle were both adherents of his views, and Epiclades' belief in the four elements of earth, air, fire, and water was the basis of life that influenced a scientific and medical thinking right until the Middle Ages. Epiclades believed in a pluralistic universe based on love and strife. Those two opposing forces combined in various ratios to form matter and shape of the four elements. But Epiclades also believed in transmigration or reincarnation of the soul, in a way that very closely reflected Orphimism. A later belief that the link to life and its descent into the underworld of a mythical Greek poet and musician, Orpheus. Epiclades believed death and transformation. It was in the belief that this seems to have influenced his suicide. Okay? According to sources, Epiclades died by throwing himself into a Sicilian volcano, Mount Etna, making him the first historical person to be recorded as a suicide. One of his biographers, Diogenes Laertes, writing a 3rd century AD, believed that Epiclades chose such an unusual death to convince people he had vanished into thin air and become an immortal god. The volcano rather destroyed the illusion by throwing back one of Epiclades' sandals. Oh, irony. In this, Diogenes was drawing on the traditional belief recorded by earlier chroniclers, but some writers throw doubt the idea that Epiclades ever really committed suicide. The Roman poet Horace refers to the traditional method of Epiclades' death in his Ars. I didn't write that word. It's ARS, Ars Poetica. Okay, just want to make clear on that. Showing the philosopher's death by volcano was an accepted fact, even if Horace himself believed it was simply a metaphor. But the poet Lucian argued that Epiclades died in an eruption of Etna and was carried up to heaven. But there are several articles here. There's one on Q1 and several good ones if you want to do a little bit more discovery of your own. But once again, I think the most important thing here is in our modern day society, we can certainly offer the help that you need and that you deserve if you're having some difficulty. Thank you again, History and Headlines, ActionGal team.